So 2022 PDGA rule changes recently came out. I want to discuss some of the more interesting ones. One of the first ones is that discs supported by the basket in any way now count as in. So what that differs a little bit, how it used to be, is now anywhere within the chains and the cage, inside, outside, if it's hanging off of it, if it's wedged in between some of the parts of the metal, it all counts as in. And part of what that eliminates is the necessity to see the disc fly into the basket. Sometimes it's a blind shot.
Right.
You just walk up and it's hanging off the basket, or it's stuck on the side. You don't know if it went in and out and stuff like that.
Right, because the old rule, or the most recent rule before the change, was the disc had to have entry into the assembly of the basket over the tray and below the top end. And if it entered in any of that space, doesn't even have to touch a chain link technically, and then finds itself supported somehow by the outside of the basket, even if it's somehow wedged in, it's good.
Right.
But yeah, there's no way to really know for sure in some instances. So it's just one of those rules. It's the target is what it is. You want to make it in. You want it to stop and come to rest at your target.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing that. I don't care if it wedged in from the side. Going back to this is going back to how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
People used to run all the time because the rules were actually a little different then, and I don't remember them verbatim, but it was that if the disc wedged into the side, it was good. But you would have people running after them because if it fell out,
Oh, yeah.
it didn't count.
You walk up,
So it was
it's just
like-
on the ground.
How much
Yeah.
time does it
Right.
take for it to
How
be
long is it at
considered a
rest?
lie? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that was a loose thing in the rules there, and that could have even been with the 2-meter rule.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure about that one, but it would make sense to me why they would run up to their lie
Yeah.
to try to retrieve that disc before it.
I guess with this rule change, why don't we go all the way and say if a disc is on top?
Yeah, that's the one thing you can't really practice as a skill. It's one of the most different parts of the basket.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
put that shot in your
Yeah, you're
in your range and try to
No.
land on top.
No.
But I mean, if we're gonna, hit the cage and stick, what's different than, I don't know, being on the top and having it stay? If it's being supported by the
You
basket,
got to make boundaries somewhere, and I think it's the bottom of the cage to the top of the chains, right? So as long as it's supported by the basket, I think part of the definition is where they're considering the basket. Like the sign on top of the basket with a number, that's not the basket.
Yeah.
The support for the chains, and I think this is where the line draws, isn't the basket. That's the support of the basket.
yeah, I just think it's an interesting
Pole in the middle
line.
is the support, right?
Sure, of course, if it's underneath, resting on the ground, leaning against the pole, obviously that's not in.
Right.
But if it's not on the ground,
Yeah, I'm
ooh,
with you.
it's interesting. Like if we're going to discuss what is the basket, and I totally hear what you're saying. I wonder where their discussions in the PDGA where that lies. Haha, I don't know why that is,
I think
but
the biggest,
what their thoughts are.
The biggest thing with rule changes, or even why there's a rule change at all, is it's just unfavorable for the player and maybe a common sense application, or that it's just too much gray area.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be something of a topic that's going to have gray area, you might as well just leave it be what it is. And I think that's what they're trying to do here, versus the headache of it's dumb, or all these questions or pressures on the TD. And it's got to be such an uncommon instance. I mean,
Yeah.
Just every once a
I've been-
tournament, if that
listen,
is this.
I practice putting once at least a week since I've been playing disc golf. So I've never had an instance yet
Yeah.
Yeah.
where I've putted into the basket and something crazy flipped out. It landed on top. It was hanging off the rim by a knuckle. One time I balanced on the edge, but we're talking out of
One in a what?
thousand
putts? Yeah, right.
countless. Gotta be countless putts
Yeah.
at this point. So yeah, I don't know what we're really catering to. So once again, I think that's why they just look at it as like all this effort and attention's being drawn at this by the handful of people that it somehow affected.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone's really butthurt, hands down, that they didn't get that stroke, or they had that extra stroke added to the card
Yeah.
that they didn't hold out.
Right.
So you just give it to the player.
Sure.
That tie goes to the runner.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to affect too many people's scores over any course of time. Small amount of instances, so they just got to draw the line somewhere. That's what I'm seeing. What the PDGA is thinking.
And I think they should make the top part of it.
Yeah.
But I also think that they should make the top. Just hear me out. They all should have to carry the same specs.
Uniform. Yes, that's what I was going to
specs.
say.
Oh, yeah.
Another point, probably why it's not, is because there's so many different types.
Right.
And anybody could come up with a basket that's shaped like a bowl, right? And
On the top, yeah.
right.
They
So
won't
you're
even-
right. They'd have to be
they
the
won't
same.
even- I remember years back, me and my buddy were super into Gateway, and we wanted to get these Titan baskets from Gateway. I think they were at the time. And I'm not sure what series of baskets they do anymore. They wanted to know what kind of events you'd run, and they wanted to give you good baskets to a place that was going to make a good course because it would have their name on it. I thought that was a really respectful way to look at your own business and your product.
Sure.
But the PDGA will not let you run like a sanctioned certain tier of event if you don't have a specific basket either.
Gotcha.
Like you can't have you can have, I think, homemade baskets and run like an XC tier or maybe even a C tier. I'm not sure about that. But you can't have that and run a B tier or an A tier. Then if you wanted to run an A tier, there might be some baskets that you can't use from a B tier side of things.
Right.
So they do
that's
have to
interesting.
fit specs. They do
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
fit specs. They should be more uniform. It would only make sense. We complain about, this person has their favorite basket, like somebody would have their favorite hockey stick or baseball bat.
Right.
So uniform that stuff up a little bit. Don't make it a monopoly. I'm not saying one
Right.
company, but companies just like the height and the width specs, the chain number specs, they should be doing that with the top assembly.
Well, speaking of the tiers, there was another new rule that PGA came out with that now you have to be a PDGA member to play in B tiers. Previously, it was A tiers and above. Do you think this is a good thing, a bad thing, or do you have any thoughts on why they may have wanted to do this?
I think it's good.
Absolutely, hands down. Legitimizes the sport.
Yeah, and I think it's great that C tiers, there's an option there. It's a great way to get your feet wet into competitive play, a sanctioned event. Okay, what does that mean? They can experience it and then say, okay, I'm ready to compete on a slightly higher level in a B tier and, be a part of the organization and really know the rules. And I think that's important because when you're a member, you're expected to know those rules of play and hopefully, it will legitimize it more.
Right. Exactly.
I like that the PDGA has it so you can sign up for any tournament, but having to go that extra step, get certified, and understand rules is something that when people look at the sport, it legitimizes it. People look like they're acting in a certain manner because some of our rules are on conduct. So
Right. Exactly.
it's good. It's good for that for the sport to push that.
Yep, I agree. We're all in agreement. That's a good rule.
Easy.
Now, maybe one of our favorite new rules, players can now ask to take a bathroom break and not be penalized 4 times.
I can't believe we started with the bathroom and here we
It
are
all
again.
come full circle.
No, I think that's.
Inception much?
Wait, did you change the rule? Or was that you? No.
that was me.
I think it's amazing. I mean, I have heard of cards of women who have known of a card mate who needed to use the bathroom, and on the next tee, they would take as much time as they were allowed before, getting a penalty of their own, each person, hoping that the person would get back in time. And I think that's crazy. To say, I need a couple minutes or I need a something. It's not like you're really slowing down play. It's I don't know how it wasn't a thing before. To be honest with you, how could that be? Like, you would be so uncomfortable.
I'm a realist. Like, I have to figure it out from that. And we talked about having bathroom on site. And you use the bathroom when you need to go. And if you're playing disc golf, you go before rounds. If you're out on the course and you have to use the bathroom, you better believe it's an emergency. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, right.
You're
I
in the
don't
middle of a
think,
round.
let's wait till hole 3.
Yeah.
Let's wait till hole 7. Perfect
And
timing.
so, like,
Perfect timing. Yeah.
If you have 3 minutes to look for we'll just throw out like some like made up plastic name. We'll call it like DX plastic.
That's not a made up plastic name.
We're just looking for we're looking for your lucky roller disc
Yeah.
under some leaves for 3 minutes is my point. And someone can't go to the bathroom
Yeah.
For probably less time.
for probably less time. I'm so happy they changed that.
Yeah.
And I really hope that this brings more bathroom access throughout the course. Because, man, if you're on the farthest hole from the bathroom, that's also like
Right.
stressful.
So we run the event at our local course.
Yeah.
And we bring in the porta potty, we lock it up the day before, we unlock it for the tournament, we lock it up at the end of the day. That's like our agreement. The park's never pushed us and said, you got to do something with this. It's not our responsibility, because that's how we took care of it. I keep thinking about putting a porta potty down, the water department has a road that goes through the mid-belly of the course,
Yeah.
over by hole 9 and 10. Maybe we should put a porta potty there. That'd be great. And if you could do it, I think you should, because it's non-issue. It's just
Yeah.
a non-issue.
Only going to help.
Once again, we're back to amenities at the design of the course.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full
And I
circle.
do too. I also think that if we really do want to grow the sport and welcome women into this community even more, it's really important that there is access
Yeah.
to a space like that for them, for
Absolutely.
me, because I know how I've felt, and I don't want another woman to feel like she's stuck or that.
Nobody should have to.
Yeah, I
Nobody.
just, it's just, yeah.
You know, like,
So this is awesome. That's
Yeah.
all to say. This is
Yeah.
amazing,
Potty talk.
and it's the who
That's the
knew?
new name of the
You got a
Who
potty
knew?
mouth
Episode 1 podcast.
podcast.
No, but it's great, and I hope it's
disco down the hole.
it starts like a whole new chat on this
Yeah.
for tournament directors and
I
things.
like it. I like it. I like the leeway. I think we're looking at
Yeah.
it from a perspective that, why are we doing this to people out there? They're out there for what could be their second 4-hour round.
Yeah.
That's 8 hours on a property. That's
a long
That's a long time.
So,
Can we talk
Disc
about one more
golf.
rule?
sure.
Sorry,
Yes.
because I saw this graphic about the lie for the Mando and going towards the basket and not toward the Mando.
Yes.
I
That's a good
think
one.
that is a really fascinating change because of the way some. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
Because of some holes, how they lay out. Like on the tee, sometimes you don't even know where the basket is, but you can see the Mando. If it's like a big
Right.
dog, like a big turn, a something. How do you know? And how can you properly set up your shot, monitor your other card mates? I mean, we all officiate each other, right? So how can you feel comfortable or, I don't know, okay to call a football if there's a football?
Yeah.
What is that? I think that's crazy.
So I think in your explanation, I'm with you. In some points of the course, whether you're being on the tee or still trying to find your way to the fairway turn,
Yeah.
you just might not know where the basket is. I think you got to do your best. I think
Well,
this
of course.
I think this rule applies when you're trying to cheat the rule, where you know that the basket's not that way, but yet you can't help but to step this way to pretend that it is, to give you a better footing, maybe out, better lie. Just we all know this is a game of inches.
Right.
Yeah,
So
right, sure.
would you be able to call that if someone's just like look like they were a little left or a little right and you don't have eyes on the basket? I don't think so. I think anybody could plead their case and be like, I think I'm that way. I think they're creating more gray area. I think you need to play the intended lie forward.
So you think fairway wise?
I
Not
think-
like don't even think about basket or Mandos in general?
I think, yeah, you have to take into account the mandatories. Because, for example,
Well, you got to go around them. You should probably think about
Yeah.
them if you're going to throw your
right,
shot.
because if I have to play to pass a Mando and
Yeah.
there's a large obstacle in my way where I cannot take a run up and throw my disc, but then I claim that, well, okay, the mandatory is this way, but the basket's this way, so I'm going to run away from this obstacle and go this way, it's just too much. It's too much. You should play the forward intended lie of the course. If the course is telling you especially to go around a Mando, you should definitely be playing towards that Mando. Your lie should be behind your disc towards that Mando.
So you're not in agreement with the rule change?
I guess I'm not.
Okay,
I
look
just
into the
changed
camera,
my-
say it. Yeah.
I just realized that I
As you were
just
saying.
totally changed my own opinion.
Yeah.
I think you did it on the spot.
No, that was
Did.
cool. We
Explaining
saw
the
those
line.
wheels
Wow,
turn.
That was terrible, but okay.
I
Well,
just,
Terrible rule
I
change.
think
We're
it's.
here, we're
I
not-
just think it's fascinating, really. Especially, I think think it was the PDGA, put out a graphic of two, like, okay, here was the old rule, here was the new rule, side by side. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, not only will I have to rethink, courses I've played that I know there are mandos or certain things, like what is my new, footing in this landing zone or whatever. I mean, but to also, look at other players and ask the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it gets
an
a little
interesting
cloudy somewhere
Yeah.
sometimes, but I think the PDGA is just trying to make it, whether you're for or against it, I think they're just trying to make it more clear, whatever it is.
Like that we're always going towards the basket,
Yes.
regardless of
Your
obstacles.
footing should always go. Because, like, what if, for example...
Like that's clear, saying it like that. But what
What
do you
if-
think of fairways?
What if
It's
somebody
interesting.
was going with, I don't know. I see. I'm back to that way. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted. I'm neutral.
All right.
I will play it by the rule that they set up. I just wish they would lock it in to know it, because it's going to go back and forth. It's going to drive
Right.
me mad.
I think that, like you said, it might be one of those where they're trying to make it more clear, but they may not be making it more correct.
Because
Yeah.
like my first,
Okay.
cause
That's-
my first reaction was like, yeah, great rule change, the way I perceived it, and I wanted to explain why the two differences. It helps. And I just found myself explaining why it doesn't. And then but I could think of little nuances and stuff like that where I could see it's going to help, but then again, I could see why it could be confusing too.
Yeah.
Or how it could become more gray area. So.
How about this? We'll loop back to this topic after we all play a tournament. After we start our seasons and
You gotta call
see
the
how we
Yeah,
feel.
You gotta call the football. Have you called anybody on a football yet out in
No,
a tournament?
I have
you?
not.
I haven't. I'm sure you have.
No,
do.
there was a
It's
misplay, but
terrible.
not a foot fault.
I think it may be the divisions that we play. You're an MPO,
I don't-
I'm
it's
like
not about-
MA3. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a different reason why people play these different divisions.
Right.
This is actually interesting. I can't say I've ever called anybody, but we as a card, I guess, have warned a person or maybe taught them a rule. It was a C tier. So this is interesting. You have to be a PDGA member for a B tier.
Yeah.
But like taught them this rule of, hey, this is how much space you get behind your lie, or mark your disc, or don't, or okay, if you do, you can't step on the disc, or
Wow.
this. And it's interesting being in that position where you say, okay, I'm in a rated competitive round, but yet I'm teaching
Right.
when I shouldn't be, but I don't want to call them on something if they don't know.
What do you think the PDGA is afraid of by not pushing all PDGA players to take qualifications in their registration at all?
I think it adds to the larger.
Pool.
Well, I was going to say it would be harder to either get into the sport or stay in the sport. And the size of the sport is, I think the PDGA is trying to do whatever they can to get and keep more players in the sport. And I think, oh, you have to take a test to play disc golf would be kind of the connotation people would get from that. Whether that's actually true of people who are in the sport may like that, oh, now everybody who's playing tournaments knows the rules. And that would be great. But from an outside perspective, I don't think it would be as perceived as well.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think that would backfire greatly. And I think it would really exclude folks and turn them off to the idea of competitive play for fun. I mean, not everyone wants to compete on the pro level. And some want to casually play, but be in tournaments and enjoy that feel of going to an event and things. And I can just see, especially as a first-time tournament player, how that would add to the stress or the desire to want to start playing
Right.
competitively.
Right.
So I think that's tough. But I think it's important, especially on pro levels, pro tour majors, that you have to take that test and you have to know. Yeah, of course. Like at that level, yeah, you all need to obviously be
At that point.
completely knowledgeable. But for first-time players or people who want to play rec divisions, I really don't think that's a good move.
I don't agree with that either. If I'm understanding what I think you took what I thought I said. I'm going to start over. Hopefully I said it right the first time. But I think if you're going to sign up for the
What did I do?
I think if you're going to sign up for the PDGA,
Yeah.
if you're going to sign up for the PDGA, I think the PDGA should just offer this free test of some general knowledge that you read it, you understand, nice page, and then it should be etiquette rule something.
Well, they send you the
Lies.
book.
Well, but before they take your money, before they say you are a PDGA member, understand and answer this quick questionnaire to finalize your membership. And it would be people wanting to be professional, or amateur, or just PDGA members, that it would only help the population of people out there with a little more knowledge, some general knowledge to start off, because we have such an influx of people playing that don't know anything.
Right.
So at least if they're willing to sign up, well, give them the rules. If they are willing to just go out and try it and play, by all means, I think the PDGA should offer like first time no PDGA fee or something like that for your first tournament. They should waive your $10 fee if it's your first tournament. You should register, get a free registration, answer the free questionnaire. If it's something, offer something of knowledge to those who want to be part of the association.
Now, what about this? So the line is of tiers, what tier it is that you need. But what if it's division? Because I feel like a lot of the stuff we're talking about goes back to why people are playing the sport. If you're playing an MA or FA3, and I don't know what division was when you were teaching somebody, but I've found the same thing. Someone may not know the rules, and I have no problem teaching because I'm playing MA3. I'm just playing to have fun. I think maybe the line for what you're saying is where you need to know the rules and be tested on it. Maybe a certain division at any tier, right? Maybe once you get to MA1, FA1, MPO, FPO, that's when you need to have that certification instead of the line being A tier.
Right.
It's professional division.
Having to take the exam is good for the B tier, for sure. It says you really want to push the skills that you have on a bigger stage. That's what usually a B tier can mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to draw in hungry players for all the prizes, and absolutely, you should be well versed in your rules. You should go through the rigorous. It's not very rigorous. It's willing. It's very giving. It's an open book test, but it's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions, and they're very complex. So the PDGA does a good job to make sure you understand what you're trying to, that you have the knowledge to go be out on a bigger stage. So that's good. But I think just something on a small scale. For example, like Joanna ran into a player that just didn't even know what marking her lie was. And you don't need to go on into a whole book to read about all of it, to just maybe give a short synopsis. They did a great job putting out all these slides too. And they might entertain doing something like that, showing you and then asking you a question and hit the answer yes or no right there. Something simple.
Yeah.
It's worth doing.
I
sure.
think if they're going to, one day ask this of players to, take a test, to play certain events or to play in certain divisions, let's say, they have to be ready with educational materials. I think just getting the book is not, that's dense, and that can be scary to read and comprehend and say, oh my God, I have to know everything in here and be solid with it and put it into practice. Like, okay, take a breath. It's okay, because a lot of these things you know naturally by playing all the time, right? So I this off season too, I saw some videos with, Sarah Hokum doing some rule short clips. Did you see any of those?
The ladies of disc golf do great videos
like,
of putting out
PDGA
content.
that's
is starting
amazing.
to do that, right?
That's amazing. I think more of that and making rules seem less scary and more exciting is the avenue that they need to go to. Just excite people about wanting to play by the rules and saying, oh my gosh, this is important. This sport is legitimate, and we are all here to play by the same rules and have a great time, but aim for that professional life.
Gotcha. I think, once again, just the legitimizing of it.
Yeah.
Just making it a more professional thing. Even if you are playing as an amateur, it's a more professional way of going about our sport.
I like the idea of division too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to say you're an advanced player, you
Like-
should know
like
all the
at
rules.
minimum.
Like, you really should know all the
Definitely
rules.
Maybe also further down.
Yeah.
But at least.
I like that.
That's important. Like, if you're going to represent the sport and yourself and play on an advanced level, even if it's, self-proclaimed, because you registered for divisions on your own, like, you should want to do that.
Right. Oh, That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it. It's gonna grow, like we keep saying, into other things, and it's gonna only help, I think.
Yeah. And so that was a great rule. Thanks for bringing that one up. There are tons of rules that they changed. Other interesting ones. Maybe we'll talk more about them in another episode. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see another clip of the HyzerCast podcast, click this video right here. If you'd like to see a video from our main channel, Hyzer Media, click this video right here. And if you haven't done so already, click this link right in the middle to subscribe to our channel or the red button down below. Thanks.